So Cherelle's debut album Fragile was originally released on April 8th, 1984, which means I Didn't Mean to Turn You On, which was on that album, it's also 40 years old. How did I get this old? I Didn't Mean to Turn You On is 40 years old. That's crazy. So let's get into it. So Cherelle is one of those unsung artists that never really gets her due. It's not like people don't acknowledge Cherelle. Like, we all love Saturday Love. Saturday Love is one of the most iconic songs ever. So we acknowledge it, but at the same time, I think people forget like some of her other songs. So she had the first album. The second album was High Priority, which featured You Look Good to Me and Saturday Love. And the third album, Affair, which featured Affair and Everything I Miss at Home, once again with Mr. Alexander O'Neal. I think the sad thing is we never got a Marvin and Tammy album from them. We never got a true duet album from Cherelle and Alexander O'Neal. But I guess they were so busy. Jimmy and Terry was so busy during that time span that I guess they probably did think about it, but it just didn't work out. So let's get to I Didn't Mean to Turn You On. So the long version, the short version. The short version is the video version. And I'm laughing because the video is a black and white video. And it was a take on King Kong, where Cherelle was in the Fayway role, and you had a giant Kong lusting after Cherelle. And they actually had a gorilla breakdancing. Like, you couldn't have an R&B video and not have somebody breakdancing, because that was the time period. But the thing about that video is actually interesting. They spent some money on it. That was not a cheap looking video. Like, it wasn't. Like, the black and white and the Kong hand, like, it was actually a little bit more expensive than most people think. But it was a fun video. It was a fun video. She looked good in it. Like, Cherelle's one of those girls, to me, like, she's one of those girls in high school you feel like, I think I could get Cherelle. And then they say, no, she's dating Rodney. And it's like, Rodney gets all the girls. Like, she's that girl that you think you might be able to get, but she's already taken. So the law version of I Didn't Mean to Turn You On, to me, is one of the best R&B songs of the 80s. Because, okay, lyrically and musically, I Didn't Mean to Turn You On is a fantastic song. Because she says, I told you twice, I was only trying to be nice. Only try to be nice. Oh, I didn't mean to turn you on. Those are some solid lyrics. So when we get to the long version, her vocals actually escalate towards the end, because she's saying, I told you twice, I was only trying to be nice. I didn't. She's not being mean. She's just saying, like, I didn't mean to do this to you. And I always felt like that song was like part two to Alexander O'Neal's Innocent. Jimmy and Terry worked with the SOS band first, and then they worked with Alexander O'Neal. His debut song was Innocent, and that's the first time we see Cherelle. And he's saying, oh, that's the girl for me, she's innocent. And then she's in the song saying, like, I don't know if I should go with him. And she's contemplating, she's talking to her friend. And then at the end, they leave. They leave in Alexander's car, which is a very, very cool car. But even though the video wasn't a part two, the song was a part two. And it sounds like to me, she's basically telling Alexander, I didn't mean to turn you on. I just have that effect on dudes. Great song. But the long version is so musically great. The long version of Innocent, the long version of I Didn't Mean to Turn You On, it's so funky. It's Jimmy and Terry at their finest peak powers before they even get to Janet Jackson. It's their finest R&B peak powers before Janet. And they just become these super producers. But this whole long version thing, it started with The Time, when it was with The Time. Now, on those albums, the first two Time albums, Jimmy and Terry, they were in the group, but they didn't play any of the songs on the album because Prince played everything. Little help from Morris Day, but it's all Prince. But he had long versions of like Get It Up, The Walk, 777-9311, Cool, Stick, like all long 7, 8, 9-minute versions of these songs. But he didn't get tired of these songs because they were so funky. And Jimmy and Terry took that with them. And they first gave that to the SOS band, like Weekend Girl, Just Be Good to Me, Just the Way You Like It. Fantastic song. Was it Whenever You Get Bored? I will give it to you just the way you like it. They don't write stuff like that no more. So yeah, so it was just like they were great with these long, just driving R&B funk tunes, man. That's so good. So I Didn't Mean to Turn You On was a big hit for Cherelle on the R&B side. Didn't cross over. Pop radio was not playing Jimmy and Terry until they played Janet Jackson's What Have You Done For Me Lately. And even with Janet wasn't a big crossover artist before them either. They played Michael. But Janet was kind of like, his little sister, okay. But once that Control album came out, Jimmy and Terry's career just took off onto the pop charts. So I Didn't Mean to Turn You On came out in 1984. 1985, Robert Palmer puts out his version of I Didn't Mean to Turn You On. And the reason I love Robert Palmer is that Robert Palmer was not trying to be some R&B vocalist. He is a UK singer who just loved music. He loved rock music. He loved R&B music. Vocally, you can tell that he was influenced by R&B music, but he wasn't trying to be an R&B singer. It was just in his soul. He had a soulful vibe about him, but he liked all types of music. So I Didn't Mean to Turn You On was on the Riptide album. The Riptide album was the album that had Addicted to Love. And Addicted to Love and I Didn't Mean to Turn You On are two different tracks. And the amazing thing is, like I said, I Didn't Mean to Turn You On didn't cross over. So somewhere in his travels, Robert Palmer heard that track someplace and said, oh, I got to redo this song. And what else he did? He also remade Early in the Morning by the Gap Band. And he also remade one of my favorite all-time songs, You Are In My System by The System. I will fight anybody on this. Now, this is my own personal list. But if you say, Kevin, what's one of your top 5 songs of all time? Number 5 will always be You Are In My System by The System. I love that song so much. I stop whatever if that song's on, I will listen to that song day and night. So Palmer's version of I Didn't Mean to Turn You On actually crossed over into the pop charts, which sucked for Cherelle, because Cherelle's version, I love the Palmer version. Fantastic. But the Cherelle version is actually better. And then we blast ahead almost 20 years later. And then Mariah Carey remakes I Didn't Mean to Turn You On, which is more like the Cherelle version for the Glitter soundtrack. Glitter might have been a horrible movie, but that soundtrack she did for Glitter, fantastic. If you can pick up the Glitter soundtrack, pick it up. Movie's trash. It's trash. But Mariah's soundtrack, grossly underrated. So Cherelle's just one of those singers that doesn't get enough love. And the thing that happened to her was, so Jimmy and Terry produced Janet. Control takes off. But I think being the guys that they are, they had an obligation to work with Taboo Records. SOS Band was on the Taboo. Cherelle's on Taboo. Alexander O'Neal's on Taboo. And they liked all these artists. Like, it doesn't like they didn't like these folks. They love these artists. They love Cherelle, right? They did I think they did 3 albums with Cherelle. I think they did 3 albums with Alex. And I think they did 3 albums with SOS. And once that contract was done, they moved on to, because Janet was on A&M, and they got their deal with A&M, which they started their label Perspective, which had Mint Condition and Solo and Low Key and Sounds of Blackness. So Jimmy and Terry was just on a different track. And unfortunately, when they made that move toward A&M, the Taboo stuff they had, the artists that they worked with, kind of fell back. So that's the only thing that kind of sucked about that, is that we didn't get more Cherelle music after Jimmy and Terry kind of moved on in the 90s. But tell me what your favorite Cherelle song is. And the thing that was great about I Didn't Mean to Turn You On is that Jimmy and Terry had this thing, which they learned from Smokey Robinson, how to write for men and women. Smokey did that with like the Supremes and the Temptations. Jimmy and Terry had it. L.A. and Babyface had it. Kells had it. People want to talk about it. Kells had it. The ability to write from a male and female perspective is a skill that most today modern songwriters don't have. So that's why I love them so much. But what's your favorite Cherelle song? Is it a song that I miss? And do me a favor, listen to that long version of I Didn't Mean to Turn You On. You won't regret it.